Good morning and greetings of peace and love. Your girl Tay Tay here, and I'm doing a video. I was asked how I disassociate myself from narcissistic people in my life, and I was asked to share my journey. So, without really going too far into it, I'm just going to assume that everybody knows what a narcissist is. If not, it's a person with a very highly inflated sense of ego, of self, of they have grandiose personalities. It's a big difference between somebody who is a narcissist and somebody who was diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder, because somebody with a narcissistic personality disorder has other personality traits and disorders that go in and feed the narcissism, and so they are the people who are the most difficult to deal with. So I have had several of these people in my life, who majority of them I have been able to completely cut them out of my life because these people are toxic. When I say they're toxic, they are unable to see the good in anyone besides themselves. They are oftentimes controlling, very, very manipulative, and they downplay and demean everyone around them so that they can seem like the better person, the most important person, the good one out of the group. And it's very problematic, especially if you're in some type of personal daily relationship with this person. It affects you in a way that your self-esteem starts to take hits, and every punch that they deal, it takes a blow to you, and it's just as bad as being physically abused. So, how I disassociate myself when I am around a narcissist or a person who has narcissistic personality disorder, because like I say, the two are very different. First of all, let's recognize that everything in life consists of energy. Everything that's living is energy. And as such, energy is transmutable, meaning it can transform, it can change shapes, it can be transferred. So if we recognize that, we know that you can move energy around and you can change its characteristics. So let me give you an example of that. Have you ever been like on a bubble and like you're on cloud nine, you're having a great day and you're hanging out with your friends, it's a beautiful day and you're just really enjoying life, and along comes negative Nancy and she's complaining about everything, right? And it's just like she brings this cloud, this damper upon the party, where now everybody is moody, people are smacking their lips, there's attitudes popping off, and nobody knows why. Okay. Another example that I know that a lot of women will be able to relate to this. You're in a room, a group setting, right? And it never fails. You're having relationship conversations with your girlfriends, and you have that one person that comes into the room, and her significant other, spouse, whatever have you, they're just not in a good place in their life, and she's dumping everything that she has. And this person, her significant other might be a crappy person in life, but she is just like, oh, this SOB is this SOB is that, they're not worth this, they're not worth that, oh, they're cheating, they're doing this and that, and I'm checking his phone. And before you realize it, a ripple effect has gone across the room. And now people are comparing. Oh, well, I remember when XYZ did this, and I remember when XYZ did that. And they're starting to then find faults in their own significant other or spouses, whereas before there was none of these issues or problems. And then you go home, and now it could be where you've never had a problem with infidelity or trust or anything in your relationship. And now you're looking at this person upside their head, all crazy, like they've done something. You're thinking about, or you're checking phones, you're checking emails, you're panicking when they're 5 minutes late in the door, because you've allowed this energy, this negative energy, to transmute and attach itself to you. So now you're taking in those traits, those qualities of the other person. Well, I discovered that when dealing with my narcissist, that I was becoming that person. I was adapting to their ways, their thoughts. Not so much that I was becoming a narcissist, more so that I was adapting what they were the thoughts that they were projecting off onto me, such as that I wasn't good enough, that I'm a horrible mother, that I'm crazy. I was allowing their feelings and their thoughts to attach itself to me. And then I started to become down upon myself. And I became bitter, not with just the person, but with myself, with my everyday life. Because once I realized what was happening, I was upset with myself because I was allowing this, not so much the abuse, the narcissistic abuse to take place, but I was allowing myself to be personally affected when I didn't have to be. Now, one of the people that I was unable to just completely cut out of my life due to family ties, I have obligations to. Therefore, I at times have to be near, around, and hold space with this person. So I said to myself, myself said, girl. And I was like, Tay, you've got to be able to be in social settings with this person without becoming affected by this person's negativity that they place upon you. So how can you do that? Well, I grew up in a household with a verbally abusive stepfather who would berate you. And it wasn't the point that he would berate you. It was the point that it was incessant. Like, it was constant. Like, he would sit you down for a talk, and this talk would last for a few hours. And it was just like they were steadily drilling into you what a horrible person you were. And even as a small child, I knew in my head, because I had other family around me that loved and cared for me enough, that even though they couldn't get me out of that situation at the time, they filled me with enough love and positivity that I did not buy into the things that this person was saying. So I was taught then that when that person is speaking to you, those things onto you, because there's the power of tongue, don't accept that into your life. And that's why later in life I was so upset with myself, because I knew I had been taught as a young child how not to accept those other people's thoughts and manifest that into my life. So my grandmother taught me a long time, and she was a very spiritual, very religious woman. A prayer that it's not just a prayer, kind of became my mantra. And even though I'm not a religious person, I'm very spiritually grounded. I have a deep connection with my higher power, my higher being. So I still use this mantra in my life today. And what it is what my grandmother taught me was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And once I say that, I give it up to the universe that this person needs help, that they are speaking ugly things, and I let it go. But not only do I let it go, I block it out. And I learned as a child, a small child of 4 years old, 5 years old, how to meditate. And what my grandmother did was she placed in my mind, she created a safe haven at her home with her in her loving arms, so that I could take that with me in my heart and my mind, so that when I was in an unsafe environment or I felt unloved, I would just go there with her. And so as a small child, I learned how to meditate, and I would go to my safe place, which was with my grandmother, and she would be holding me, rocking me, and singing in her baritone voice, and I would block this person out. And I became so good at it that by the time I reached high school, when the verbal abuse switched over to physical abuse, because they felt like I wasn't listening, because at that point it was clear that I wasn't listening, I learned how to be present in the moment, but not accepting of the things that they were putting out into the universe verbally at me, but also still be in my safe place. So I was able to, yes sir, no sir, yes sir, at the appropriate times to the appropriate questions, but I wasn't physically really hearing what was going on because I was still in my safe place. And that's how I learned at an early age how to disassociate. So that's why I was very upset with myself as an adult when I realized what was taking place with this narcissistic person that I couldn't disassociate from physically. So I said, let me get back on track. Let me practice cleansing myself, grounding myself, and disassociating myself physically when I'm in this person, mentally, when I'm in this person's physical presence. And that's what I've been able to do. So that's one way I deal with this person. The other way is that I use art as a healing medium in my life, okay? I do paint pours. I love to call myself a struggling. I'm not starving, and I'm not going to be struggling. I'm going to stop saying that. I am a successful artist. I will be well known before I die. But I am an artist, and I create artwork of all different mediums: photography, digital, sketch art, paint pour, canvas paint. And I also do, patches, iron-on patches, out of my artwork. So I've been able to, so it started with me when I was angry at myself, and I lashed out a little bit at this person, not physically, but I had like a little mini breakdown where I was crying and screaming in the comforts and privacy and safety of my own home. And, letting out how I felt about this person. And I had set up previously earlier to do some painting, and I started just pouring paint on the canvas. And I was conscious and familiar of the pour technique, but I had never done it at that time. And so I just started really just pouring paint. And when I tell you, the most beautiful piece of art came out of that, one that I still have today, and I call it Manic. And it was through that I found healing. And I realized that you have to have an outlet. So for me, my arts and crafts, which has all, or my hobbies of arts and crafts, which has also become a business for me, is my outlet. So you have to find a positive outlet to transmute that energy from. So what I've found is that if I'm around this person and they have somehow gotten to me and scratched the surface of my skin enough to cause an irritation, I have to get rid of that energy right away, because I don't want that energy to transmute itself and take root in my daily life in the forms of hostility, or in the relationships between my children and my spouse. I don't want any of that to manifest. So I transmute that negative energy. I transmute that hatefulness. I transmute that inflated sense of ego that person holds, like they're better than me. And I pour it, and I use that energy, and I turn it into something good. Because as I'm pouring, I tell myself, you're beautiful, you're worth more, you're not better than anybody else, but you're just as good as everyone else. You're worthy. And that's how I'm able to physically and mentally disassociate myself and transmute their negative energy into a positive. And it's not, there's a lot of different activities that you can do. All I'm saying is that you need an outlet. You need something. You will find that once you let go, you can start to live again. You don't want to continue to be a victim of a narcissist person, because then you develop a victimized mentality, and that's a disorder all in itself. When you become the victim, you cease to live. You lose your power, and you give your power to that person, and you have to take the reins of your life back over. So that's how I cope with narcissist personalities and people with narcissistic personality disorder. And, there's not just that, but multiple personality disorders. There are, multiple personality disorders out there that are known and unknown. There are some disorders that haven't been discovered yet. And I just say you take life one day at a time, and you do the very best that you can do as a person, and you have something to live for. So that's my word of the day. You guys continue to be great, be loving, be kind. Peace. Tay out.